Hello, welcome. This is Cooper Epps.
Hi, I'm James Epps. I'm Cooper's dad.
And this is SportSense, the new show where I'm going to be learning from my dad week to week just enough about sports to survive any social setting and hopefully seem much more competent about sports than I really am. All right, let's get into it.
It's time to get some SportSense. You're gonna get some SportSense. You better get ready for SportSense. SportSense.
Welcome to SportSense, episode 1. How's it going, Dad? You ready for this?
Good, Coop. Absolutely. I'm very excited. Let's go.
Many sons out there have disappointed their fathers after decades of being raised on sports. Some of us forsook the path and chose the arts and other fanciful, fleeting things.
You're never a disappointment, Coop. Never.
Well, the truth is, Dad, I don't know. I just don't know how much I'll be able to care about sports. I'm gonna try, but here's the thing: is I do care about my vanity. I care about sounding competent. I care about participating in normal human conversations at work or with my in-laws.
You want to know what you need to know without investing a tremendous amount of time, effort, and energy. Is that right?
Right.
Got it. So you're
and I was hoping I could take advantage of you.
Yeah. So you can carry on great conversations, but at the same time, you can put your heart and all the things you care about in your other interests that aren't sports related.
For sure. Like adult cartoons and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, yeah, we'll have to record a separate episode, a little introduction to us personally.
Okay.
And we'll post that at some point. But for the time being, for our first listeners, just know that at this point, I know so little about sports that I mistakenly thought a football team last season had a negative score when I was watching some, I think it was the Super Bowl with my father-in-law. And so I've really stooped to a pretty low level, and I got a big recovery ahead of me.
Well, you did. That was an unusual graphic they were using. It threw you for a loop. But I'm certain after all the conversations we've had since that time, you absolutely know there can never be a negative to a football game, right? A negative score.
Right.
But it does set the table for the need maybe that you have for us to have a little conversation each week to keep you up to speed and up to date for some sports. Yep. Well, with that, Coop, I've got to jump in. I mean, we've got to quickly get to something. Just so you know, especially all those that listen, just so you know, this past weekend and really the whole month of October is the greatest sport fan month of the year. And here's why. Since this past weekend through the next week to 12 days, but over the next week and really beginning this past weekend, it is the greatest sports year. Now think about this. Over the weekend, they wrapped up the WNBA finals. And they had a crazy 5-game series. It went into overtime. So those that love WNBA, they had a wild finish to their championship season. Second, NBA starts tomorrow night, if you can believe it, first game of the season. Then college football, we're in the meat of it, the heart of the season. We're about halfway through the season, and it's been great. And right now, you and I talked before about it, but every game is relevant because, and we'll get to it later, I really do want to spend time. Might not be on this segment, but sometime in the next week or two, we need to talk about the college football playoffs because the very first ranking will be coming up here, I think November 6th, actually the same day as the national election. So that's a big deal.
Wait. So, ranking of college football teams?
Yeah. Well, there's rankings always, but I mentioned this to you before. It's called the college football playoffs. There's a committee that will rank and give us the top 12.
Okay.
First time ever. Remember, we talked about this before.
And so
a few years ago, it was only two teams. Then it was 4 teams.
Sure.
And this is the first year's 12 teams. But we'll get back to that. I can go on a whole rant for that, but just know that's coming. My point is, we got college football going on right now, and we're not through yet. NHL hockey is going on.
Oh, yeah.
NFL football is going on. And last but not least, to wrap up soon, something you and I were talking about, the World Series starts this Friday. Now think about that. WNBA, NBA, college football, NFL, NHL, World Series, all in 1 week.
Whew, that is, I mean, I guess you could not sleep and be plenty entertained all week.
I think it really strains some marriages and some families, but for those real sports enthusiasts or possible addicts, it's a crazy time of the year. So let's kick. I was just kicking it off, and to wrap up something you and I talked about before. It is not going to be a Subway series for the World Series. I'm sad to say it will not be the Yankees.
Oh, okay. Oh, we're jumping right in.
Yeah, I'm jumping. Then
because that was a question I was wondering about.
Yep, we're going back up after that because that was at the tail end of this.
Okay.
And it's going to be the Dodgers, LA Dodgers, and the Yankees. That's a must know. That starts Friday for all of our listeners. That's a must know.
Wait, we talked about how we were potentially going to have Yankees versus the Mets.
Yes.
Took me a second to remember that. And Subway Series, you taught me it's called that because New Yorkers can ride from one home game to the other on the subway, right?
Correct.
And so super cool. Would have been super cool, but now you're telling me that it's Dodgers and Yankees.
Right. So
Dodgers
East Coast
are from,
versus West Coast.
Dodgers are from Los Angeles, right?
That's correct.
Okay, great.
Proud of you.
There's how many? Aren't there like 3 California baseball teams?
Well, they're in the process. There's actually there have been 4. There's San Francisco,
the Giants,
Oakland, but Oakland's in the process of looking to move. And then you have California or the Los Angeles Angels. They call them Anaheim Angels. They keep changing their name, but you got the Dodgers and the Angels. So
4.
Yeah, 4.
They've had for a while. Holy cow.
So the Dodgers and the Yankees in all the history of Major League Baseball have met the most times in the World Series. This will be their 12th meeting. They haven't met, though, since 1981, so it's been a very long time.
Whoa.
And it's the most ever. So I think the Yankees been in like 44 times the World Series. The Dodgers 22 times. But they are the most storied baseball franchises in terms of going to the World Series. So it's really cool, very exciting, and how they got there was mind-blowing. And again, I don't want to get far off, but you asked me, I think you mentioned, hey, what was one of the sportiest things, the moment of this week? Well, one had to be, that's why we had to stay on this a moment, Juan Soto of the Yankees hitting, it was 2-2 going into 10th inning. He hit a 3-run bomb. I mean, it was a great at-bat, pitcher versus hitter. I mean, they were dueling back and forth. Then he jacked one out of there. And that one home run sent them to the World Series. So that's kind of a pretty exciting moment if you love baseball.
Baseball lingo. If you hit a bomb, I mean, the way you're saying it sounds exciting. Is that just a big fat home run?
Yes.
Super far?
Yeah. Jacking it out means he really hit a very powerful home run. Jacked it out.
That phraseology does make me a little nervous. You saying jacking something out, so I'm not sure about that.
Out of the ballpark, knocking it out of the ballpark. Yeah,
but bombing. I can get
not bombing. That. I didn't say anything about a bombing, but a bomb. He hit a bomb.
Okay, hit a bomb.
All right, let's move off of that. Then we're going to really I can really distract you quickly. I didn't mean to do that to you.
Well, I honestly, I'm going to be very curious. I have a lot. I mean, Dad, I was playing, and you're going to be embarrassed, but I was playing Fortnite with my friends last night on Xbox, and that's a popular video game if you're not familiar with that.
I do know Fortnite. I have grandchildren and children.
Okay. Well, and they just started going off about whatever the games were. The Ducks won a big game. The Oregon Ducks, I guess, won a big game over the weekend.
That's college football. Yes, we'll get to that.
And I thought, I was starting to get equipped again, but just instantly I fell out of the conversation. I was like, I've got nothing to contribute here. So point being is I'm going to be very curious. I'm going to ask a lot of questions for people like you who just can't even speak the language, All
right. Well, I'm not saying mine's the best language, but it's what I know. So we'll go with that.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's it. I mean, that was it. So that catches up on baseball. But I think even if you're a casual baseball fan, the World Series is something special. Best of 7, like you said, I forget. Best of 7 games, right? And you've got what you have on this year on each side. You got American League and National League. You've got the MVPs on each side. You've got the 3 best hitters of this year between the 2 teams. There's star power galore. I mean, this is unbelievable. The player for the Yankees, Judge, he hasn't been to a World Series yet, and he's been knocking on the door for years, ready to get in.
So neither of the teams were necessarily like underdogs. Like they weren't. It's not a surprise that they're in the finals.
They were the favorites, pretty much, especially the Dodgers. They were absolutely the favorite to get there, and they did. And I expect them to win. Now that's my pick. But the Yankees also were most certainly expected to probably get to the World Series this year. No underdog story here. All these are the biggest paid teams, the biggest stars, and they did it. They made it to the World Series.
I guess that makes sense. LA and New York, right? Two of the wealthiest cities in the country.
Well,
I guess, right?
Yeah, that's
maybe the two wealthiest.
These owner groups. Yep. Anyway, pretty exciting.
Let's continue our recap from last week. The other like massive game we talked about was Texas Georgia college football game.
Man, I'm going to try to make this brief. But oh my gosh, did you even catch a score?
Definitely no score, no specific score. I remember hearing who the winner was, but you know what's hilarious is I
don't remember, do you?
It in one ear.
You got a 50-50 shot. All right, would you like me to jump in that for a quick recap?
Well, let's see. If I were to guess, we were expecting Texas to win because they were number one. And based on your exasperated tone, it sounds like maybe Georgia upset them.
Yes. And it was at Texas. I mean, they had, all the famous people on the sideline. That place was going crazy. But here's the bottom line to sum it up. This is all you need to know. The score doesn't even matter to you. Georgia won 30-15. But really, and so, a couple touchdowns, no really big deal. Okay. But the game, and I watched every minute of this game, Georgia manhandled Texas. I mean, they beat them like they had stolen somebody's lunch. I mean, up and down the field all game. And here's the interesting part. Their coach is Kirby Smart, right? Georgia's coach is Kirby Smart. And he's always looking for, as they say, he has been the king. Him and Nick Saban at Alabama, they've been dominating college football for years now. But he always liked to act like he's the underdog. He always convinces his player, we're probably about the second, worst team in the country. Y'all got to show something. He always finds some villain to go after. In this case, it was really easy for him because Georgia, I know you won't remember us, but we touched on this. Georgia lost to Alabama earlier in the year, so they've got one loss, which is you don't want to have too many losses, even though you can get in the 12-team playoff. But all week he was telling they were getting no respect, that every announcer was picking, every pundit was picking Texas, which was not true, by the way. There's all sorts of them pundits that pick Georgia to win. But he's telling them, I mean, he's putting in, they call it bulletin board material. He's telling them that nobody believes in. So he is the master of getting his team to think it's us against the world, right? I mean, that is the great coaching strategy of all time. Rally together, your brothers, we're all going to go down together or we're going to become victorious. And he is the master at it. And they came out and played just like that. They beat the tar out of Texas. And even Texas, we talked about two quarterbacks last on our first podcast, but they even tried to put Manning in. Yours was getting chased around and beat up and thrown around. They threw Manning in. It looked like the same thing. He was running around getting beat up and sacked and chased around. So they pulled him back out and put yours back in the second half. Anyway, so that was that. And Georgia is ranked number 2 in the country after that win.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're right behind Oregon, which we won't spend much time on Oregon, but Oregon's number 1, undefeated. I'm not that super impressed with Oregon. They had some really, for heaven's sakes, I think they only beat the University of Idaho opening game by, I can't remember, 6 points, 5, nothing big. Man. So they're getting better and better, but right now they're number 1 in the country, and they're just, we'll see. We'll just see how good they are. But I'm excited to see them. They're fun to watch. They're a dynamic offense for sure. And the other one, real quick. Go ahead. Do you have any question on that?
Yeah, I do. Not on Oregon so much, but you mentioned Manning, who in our demo episode from last week, we talked about Peyton and what's the other famous man? Eli Manning's nephew is this kid, right?
Yeah, so this boy's name is Arch Manning. His grandfather's name Archie. Played for New Orleans Saints, who's so awesome.
Whoa.
Way back when, yep.
Wow. So there's a
3
number
generations.
Of professional.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah, when Arch ever goes professional, family. It'll be 3 generations in NFL.
And you told me he's redshirting, and I thought that meant that you just basically practice with the team.
That's what they call it, a redshirt sophomore. So he sat out last year. You can play a minimum little bit amount. So he's a sophomore eligibility, but redshirts means that he definitely has sat out. So he did his redshirt year, and now he can play whenever they want him to. Yep.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, we'll keep our eye on Arch.
Yeah, Arch Manning,
the third.
It might I only think he's the third. No, he's not a third. But the other one we talked about, do you remember the other big game real quick?
So, no, I'm looking at my notes and I'm racking my brain.
I'll save it. I'll help you.
Was it an NFL game? I feel like I remember Baltimore.
We'll get to but the other college game, and then because I want to kind of.
I don't remember the other college.
I want to make fun of it, not make fun of it, but no, it was Tennessee versus Alabama.
Oh,
at Tennessee, and I'm sure this is going crazy to you, but do you know how many fans can fit in the stadium at Tennessee?
I've heard the college football stadiums are even bigger.
Right.
Than the pros.
Well, good job. Yeah, that's impressive. You know that.
Maybe you told me that.
I probably did.
So I don't know, 100,000?
Good job. 102,000. That's impressive. That's crazy. Anyway, Tennessee beat them. Alabama's, this is the big note. They have now had 2 conference losses. Alabama has before the November, and that hasn't happened since I think 2007, maybe.
Wow.
And so that's a big deal. And this is the first year that Saban's been retired and not there. So anyway, just a little side note. Tennessee, I didn't think either team looked great. Tennessee struggled in some things, but that was a big win. That was a big win for Tennessee.
Oh, shoot. So Tennessee gave them their second loss?
Yes. I'm sorry. I didn't make it clear. So that's Alabama's second loss of the year in conference, particularly.
So do they still have a chance of making it to
if they win out? Like if they win every game from here on, they have a chance to get in that top 12 because they do play an incredibly difficult schedule because of the conference. As I've told you before, the SEC is the best conference in the country in football.
So they take all that. I don't know who they is.
Well, the they is that's what I was telling you about. We might not can take the time tonight, but the they is the College Football Playoff Committee.
Okay,
it's a committee, and I think again November 5th. Actually, I have in my notes November 5th is going to be the very first ranking they put out, and that's the one that matters. 1 through 12. That ranking is a big deal. When the playoffs start.
Okay, well, those are the biggest games to recap, right? Or did you want to talk NFL?
No, well, maybe. Nah. One new thing, hey, you asked for I wanted to at least tell you the one miracle play of the week. I got to be a homer here. Was BYU had not played that great a game against Oklahoma State. They were playing to remain undefeated and ranked 12th in the country. They're now 11th because at 15 seconds to go, we threw a 35-yard touchdown strike to win the game by 3 points, 38-35. And we didn't deserve it maybe, but it's one of those charmed years we're having. So we're 7-0, ranked 11. All right. That's enough of that. I wanted to get it out
I did
there.
hear, of course, so as if the audience doesn't know, I live in Utah currently, and both my dad and I went to BYU. We're BYU fans, but I'm a disenchanted one. So I've been, anyways, no, my wife and I were asleep when that happened. And we woke up and heard the news. And to be honest, I felt conflicted because I did feel a little bit like, I mean, good, but like it sounds like they didn't quite deserve it. Like
don't be conflicted, son. This is all good. And I was up to 1:45 Eastern Standard Time watching that, knowing I had to spend the whole day chainsawing wood for this Helene relief work we were doing. But my son-in-law watched it. Problem is, at 1:45 a.m., it was such an exciting finish. We both laid in bed in the hotel room and couldn't close our eyes for another 30 minutes because our adrenaline was pumping so hard. So that's what a true fan is, I guess. Maybe that's the definition. But so we didn't sleep much. But
good work helping out those Hurricane Helene victims.
That was a neat experience. So that's it from last week. I guess we had there was a couple of course, the pro games, but the big game I did pick was perfect almost. It was, I don't know if you remember, Minnesota was undefeated. They were 5-0 and they were playing Detroit.
Okay.
And Detroit was 5-1. Minnesota, they're playing at Minnesota. Detroit kicked a field goal with just a few seconds to go to win by 2. So it was a great game. It's the one we kind of called to be game of the week for us in our discussion. And it really delivered. They're in the same division. So now they're both tied at the top of the NFC North division at 5 wins and 1 losses each. So big, cool game.
That moves us into like, what's the top big games that or game singular that we need to be paying attention to this weekend?
It's in the college ranks, I think. There really is. This past weekend, they had some of the best matchups. But there's a couple games. But I got a real quick. I mean, this is a cool thing about college football that I love. I'll tell you in 1 second. I think the actual top game is probably number 1 Oregon because they're getting all the attention, and they're playing Illinois, and they're playing
Illinois
at home.
good?
Yeah, Illini they call them. Illinois is ranked number 20, and they're 6-1. Oregon's ranked number 1 in the current polls, and they're 7-0. And they're playing at home at Oregon. And I don't know if you've heard about Oregon's stadium, but it's kind of built into the ground, and the sound never escapes. They say it's the hardest stadium to play in the country. It gets so loud, it just reverberates. The fans, right? You're on the field, you cannot even hear yourself think when they're cranking it. So that's one of the cool things about playing. If you're an Oregon Ducks fan, that's an advantage. It's probably a 3 or 4 point advantage, possibly, just to be able to be there to mess up the other team. Right, other teams trying to call offensive play and they can't even hear each other, and they have to go to such thing as a silent count, meaning that the center has to count. If they say it's going to be on 3, he's counting 1, 2, 3. They don't say it out loud because they can't hear each other, and then he snaps the ball. Things like that. But
wait, so how do they if they can't hear?
They call the play beforehand, but they go up to the line. They can't really hear the quarterback, hollering. How you hear a quarterback usually start hollering 1, whatever, 2, whatever. They'll see them either slap their leg. They can't when they clap, they can't even hear, but they'll clap, but they can't hear that. Sometimes you've got a guard who's beside the center. They'll tap the leg, and I mean they've got ways to do it to communicate, and that's how they do it.
That's really interesting.
That would be the number 1 game, I think. And by the way, I really cannot. I think Oregon will win that game. Next quick game: LSU versus Texas A&M. Big SEC matchup. Both teams. LSU is ranked number 8 in the country, and they're 6-1. Texas A&M is they're ranked maybe not so good. They hadn't had a tough schedule, but they're 6-1. But that's the upset I would call this week is Texas A&M they're playing at home, and that would be the upset I would call this week. That Texas A&M upsets LSU. That'll be a great game for those that love SEC football. But here's my little college football tidbits. Here you go. This is crazy. It's the first time since 1960 that Army and Navy, both football teams, are in the top 25.
Cool.
64 years ago, that's the first time they've been in the top 25. Pretty cool, right? Their last game every season, Army and Navy, is they play each other. And the service academy, all of them come into the stadium. They have their winter coats on and their service hats. They're all dressed in uniform, and that's who they allow in there. And whoever wins throws up their hats, and it's a big deal. It's cool. A big deal. So this year,
is Air Force just not even good enough to?
They have not this year, but they have in the past. Air Force has been pretty good, but these are the two.
They don't have like a classic matchup.
That's
at the
correct.
End of the
it's
season.
Army
like that.
Navy. That goes way like 100 years back or something.
That's
they
funny.
play the last game of the season is always against each other. And this year, clearly, they're going to be both probably ranked, or at least the best teams they've had in a long time. Anyway, I just thought that was so cool that they were ranked 23 and 24, both undefeated, and and they haven't been that way for 64 years. So pretty cool.
Nice. That's a great tidbit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, that's the other thing I had. The first time they've both been undefeated at the same time since 1945.
That's so long.
That was my fun fact.
That is crazy. That is so long ago. That was literally the end of World War II.
Correct.
That's crazy.
Yep. So anyway, that's my fun facts for the week on college football.
We'll have to think of a name for that segment. Maybe Daddy Tidbits is what's coming to
Daddy,
mind
I don't
first.
know. That's kind of weak, but we'll come up with something. All right.
So mostly we'll be looking at college this weekend, Oregon versus Illinois. I actually am curious to watch that one, at least a few minutes of that one, just because I want to see what they do, what Illinois does when it's so loud that they can't hear. I'm very interested. That's just such a
and of course Oregon's known for their uniforms, right? The Nike Phil Knight sponsorship. They've always had the coolest uniforms. They have a different uniform and helmet every game. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. So anyway, pretty cool.
Which I do love. I'm a big Nike fan.
So I think you'll just love Oregon just to see them play.
Yeah.
The visual.
But yeah. And then LSU and Texas A&M. We're hoping Texas A&M, or we're thinking.
That's my upset of the week.
All right, cool.
Again, I can't believe so many different professional sports are going on all this 1 week. You think how it all falls together. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. I guess it ought to be a national holiday for the whole week.
Okay, well, there's a couple traditions I want to tack on to the end of each of our episodes. As you know, we're going to do a dad stumper here pretty soon, but before that, I want to have a little mailbag segment. That's one of my favorite things about podcasts is when listeners submit some questions or thoughts. So this is a plug for anybody who's made it this far. Email us anytime, any crazy plays you see or interesting games you want us to mention here. Email us at sportsensemailbag@gmail.com, and we'll put that in the episode notes as well. sportsensemailbag@gmail.com. And since this is our very first episode, Dad, I'm going to ask you our first mailbag question.
All right.
So, and I don't know if it's a story I've ever heard from you. I'm curious your answer, but I want to know, what is your earliest sports memory?
Oh man.
And this could be like a game you went to or what you first played, just like what's.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can tell you what my first, I think it's more of what I first played. I played baseball. I mean, I played pickup ball in the neighborhood. My brothers were 8 years older and 6 years older than I was. And back in the day, and this is back in the 60s, I can't believe that's so long ago, but I played everything. We played tackle football in the backyard. We played basketball. I played baseball. I played everything. I played till the sun went down. And I've told you stories. I was a paper boy and a little boy because my brothers had a big route and I took a little bit around the neighborhood, but I never could finish the route because I always had to stop with about 5 houses to go to play basketball or baseball or football, whatever the guys were playing in whatever season it was, my neighborhood buddies, right? And then the phone would start ringing off the hook and my mother and father get so upset. They'd come find me, tell me to finish my route, and then I could go back and play. So that's kind of I did that from the time I was 6, 7, 8 years old, believe it or not. But my first organized game of sports that I got hooked on, that's why I've loved baseball ever since. I played in a league, it's called Little League. It was ages 9 to 12, 4-year gap. So as a 9-year-old, I played against some 12-year-olds that were some big guys. And I remember clear as a bell playing those first few games. I got to start as a 9-year-old. I could hit from the time I was young, but I got stuck in right field as a 9-year-old, which makes sense. I didn't expect to play. But I can remember that so well, getting my uniform, getting my hat and what team I was on. It's called Hackney's Sporting Goods in North Hills Mall in Raleigh, North Carolina. I can remember that part. I can remember just like yesterday. I mean, I just lived for it. I mean, I don't even know how I got through school because I didn't care about school. I cared about sports and playing sports. So that would be my first team and first sport season or sport that I fell in love with immediately. I played basketball my whole life, but I can remember that clear as bell, that first season. And after that season, so cool. I was a catcher all the way through high school. I loved being a catcher, and that was that. So that's probably my first, just individual, personal, fall in love with sports and organized sports with a team and a coach and fans and fields and the umpires and, the whole thing. I just fell in love with it.
Well, that's cool. I can picture it now. I'm thinking of the Sandlot or something. I guess that was that was more official and organized than the Sandlot, but that's cool. That sounds very American. I love it.
That's a little, so that hopefully answers your question.
Very cool. Well, I'll be thinking of the Hackneys tonight.
That's right. Hackneys Sports.
Okay. Well, with that, let's wrap this up with this trivia question we've been teasing all night long. My brain's tired. Let's see if I can come through. I don't know. I just don't know what I'm going to have to do to stump you. So this could be a layup. I don't really know. But for me, it was fascinating.
It could be a stump me right here, right off the bat. So let's go.
Okay. Well, here we go. This was the year, I believe my oldest sister was born, right? 1989.
That's when your oldest brother was born.
Oh, okay. Okay. She was born.
She's 86, but 89. Kayla was born.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't do that math.
At least it was one of your siblings. One of your siblings was born. Yes.
Okay. So you were a young, pretty new father at the time.
Yep.
And there's a pitcher who burst onto the scene. He didn't even do minor leagues, apparently. He just went straight to the California Angels at the time in 1989. His name was Jim Abbott.
Absolutely.
And do you remember what physical feature of his made him so unique?
This was a layup. Thank you. Be nice to me like that every week. He was missing one hand. He had the ability to stuff his glove on the stump of his hand, and he would pitch, and then he'd pop that glove back onto his pitching hand and play defense and never missed a beat. He was awesome. I love Jim Abbott.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, okay, well, dang, all right, well, that was a layup. But it was MLB. I was going through trivia online, and that one I just thought was so cool.
It is so cool. I mean, I'm dead serious. I marveled at him, and he stayed in the majors for a number of years and was successful. And then he had some down years time, but I think he was absolute inspiration for anyone who had certain handicaps or, physical differences, that he would, but he was a physical presence. He's a big guy and strong, and he was amazing. But yeah, how quick you ought to go back and see YouTube footage and watch how quickly he would transfer that glove from his stump to his hand. Yeah. His other hand, and be ready to play defense. I mean, it really was remarkable.
That's so cool. Yeah, because that's the thing is I'm imagining him catch it. Let's say he got the glove to the other hand mid-play, caught the ball after it got passed to him again for some reason, and then how do you throw it?
Yeah, he could flick it with his glove. Like if he had to play it first, he'd run to first and flick it.
Wow. That's so cool.
I mean, I can, wow. Obviously somebody I really thought was amazing and watched carefully and seen a lot of footage of. But
yeah. Okay.
Good question though. I love it. It brings back good memories.
Very cool. Well, yeah, I'm glad we could talk about him a little bit. I'll look him up some more after this, but very good. That was our official episode 1. I think we're going to go public with this week of SportSense. Thanks so much, Dad, for keeping us informed.
You're welcome. I really enjoyed it.
All right. See you, Dad.
See you, Coop.
SportSense.